But in the office world, most companies are finding that they're going to land somewhere in the hybrid model where people are going to come into the office 2 to 3 days a week. I don't like using that terminology. I like to think of it as 16 to 24 hours a week, because they may not be full days. They may be partial days for some people. So there's going to be an ebb and flow of people in and out of the office. They're going to do work in the office. They're going to do work at home. They're going to do work at third locations. They're looking for ways to reduce their commutes. There are many assets that the company can provide to help them do that. Some people have great home work environments, others don't. So potentially leveraging third-party locations, office sharing, co-working, et cetera, near the bedroom communities may become something that becomes popular. So people can congregate, but they don't have to commute a long distance to get to a city center office if that's where the company is located. Within the portfolio of offices that we have, the percentage of time spent collaborating in those locations is likely to be higher than it was in the past. So we're going to use less desks and more collaboration space. Now, as that happens, the need to manage on-site presence rises. So activity-based work, when 60%, 70% of the people showed up on site on any given day, we could buffer that out, and our portfolio could operate efficiently and effectively and manage without controlling on-site presence. As we move post-pandemic, and that number maybe drops to 30% of the population assigned to a site showing up on any given day, you can get much bigger peaks and valleys. So now you may need to manage those peaks and valleys. And that will change what you want to set up at your facilities. And we are looking at solutions, and other companies are looking at solutions that have a percentage of our portfolio that can be used for either heads down work or collaboration. So we have specific models. I know some of the tech companies have already started to reconstruct some of their city center offices, where the ratio moved from maybe 60% work desks to 20% work desks, 30% collaboration, and 50% that's sort of mixed between the two. And that design of that mix of what is functional for me to do heads down work and functional for me to collaborate, that's the sweet spot that we have to design today and solve for today. We know how to design a focused work area. We know how to design a meeting room. How do we design something that does both? That's going to play out a little differently for different companies.
And it will lead to the important question, how do you determine space demand for the future?
Yes, absolutely. So space demand, right now we're predicting, right? But what we want to have is predictive tools that give us information, facts, not opinions, facts, that we can then translate into design solutions and management solutions. So I can use design to impact behavior, or I can design to behavior. I always prefer to use design to impact behavior, right? We understand business objectives. We understand people's personal objectives. And then we design something that should, we don't always get it right, but should allow them to solve all those problems with the assets. Then it's a matter of learning how to use those assets correctly. So, we have started to deploy a utilization monitoring technology on a much bigger scale than we ever have, because that is part of the toolkit that will allow us to be predictive, because people will use space differently at different times of the year, just because of weather is one. Also, you've got things like quarter-end business closes. You've got activities that are going to ebb and flow during the year. And I like to use a term now called coordinated collaboration, because we are probably not going to move to using whole-scale space booking systems for individual task work, but we absolutely will use them for large-scale collaboration. And large-scale collaboration should be, in my theories, predictive of on-site presence. right? When team meetings are occurring, people are going to stay on the campus and do their heads down work. So if we can actually coordinate that large scale collaboration and spread it through the week, through the month, through the year in a more planned way across all of our occupants of a site. So if we have 1,000 people at a site, there could be 20, 30 departments. We need to manage those departments. We don't need to manage the individuals quite so much.